Welcome to the YouTube replay from our virtual Green Drinks October 2021 edition, Organizations That Matter. We featured Chantal Haigh from GreenBooks Canada, Martin Yule from Cleantech Commons, and Lisa Olkey from Lox Consulting. Enjoy this replay. So we're a little past 6:30, so I want to welcome everybody to Virtual Green Drinks October 2021. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Nick Hebb with SmartNet Alliance. And the Alliance is a group of businesses and organizations who collaborate on projects and initiatives to accelerate the transition to Canada's sustainable economy. For more information on SNA, please consult our website, and I'll put that into chat. And be sure to check out our membership pages where we have lots of information on all our different members. So double check that as well. So tonight we talk organizations with impact. There's so many out there, but we're happy to highlight three amazing organizations tonight. And first up, we're going to welcome Chantal Haigh and as well as Eric from GreenBooks Canada. And GreenBooks Canada is a full-service bookkeeping social enterprise founded to help environmental organizations deliver on their mission. Chantal will discuss why GreenBooks Canada is a vital resource for environmental nonprofits all over the country. After that, we're going to welcome Martin Yule, who is the Executive Director of Cleantech Commons, which is an 85-acre research and innovation park at Trent University in Peterborough. Martin will give us a glimpse into how Cleantech Commons is supporting clean technology research, innovation, commercialization, and entrepreneurship in Canada. So that's going to be a fabulous presentation. And rounding out, we've got Lisa Olkey, who is president of Lox Consulting. Lisa is an entrepreneur with a passion for the environment. She launched her consulting business back in 2020 to drive future low carbon initiatives. And she's got an interactive portion to her presentation as well, so stay tuned for that. She'll speak about her journey as an environmental entrepreneur along with the important work she's doing. So I want to thank so much all the speakers for coming out. Really looking forward to this one. So Chantal Haigh is the Client Engagement Coordinator at GreenBooks Canada. She is very passionate about her work and aims to help environmental nonprofits build their capacity and support their communities. She has developed this passion while studying in Ecuador, where she volunteered with an archaeological organization dedicated to helping farmers enter the market and increase their income. What a great initiative. Chantal has her Bachelor's of Arts degree in International Development Studies and a minor in Environmental Studies from Trent University. So it'll be a bit of a Trent homecoming here tonight, I guess, which is great. So Chantal, thanks for joining us. I know we've got Eric along as well, who's going to hop in and maybe answer some Q&A. But Chantal, you're free to unmute yourself, share your screen, and tell us a little bit about GreenBooks Canada and the important work you're doing.
Excellent. Thank you, Nick. Thank you so much for having me in that wonderful introduction. I just want to begin, before I start sharing my screen, I just wanted to do a land acknowledgement. Here at GreenBooks, we are coming from Ottawa. Although we are a national organization, we are based in Ottawa. So I would just like to begin with, I'd like to acknowledge that Ottawa is built on unceded Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory where mass genocide took place and intergenerational trauma is still happening. The people of Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation have lived on this territory for millennia. Their culture and presence has nurtured and continue to nurture this place. And therefore, we honor the peoples and the land of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. Thank you, and I will begin.
Thanks so much, Chantal, for that acknowledgement.
There we go. Okay, yes, as Nick so nicely introduced me, I work with GreenBooks. We are a full-service bookkeeping social enterprise. And I just have our agenda for this evening. So today I'm just going to talk about who we are, why we do what we do, what we offer, and then at the end I'll just give out our contact information for anyone who may want to reach out and learn a bit more. So to start, I'm just going to give kind of our founding story on how we began. We are a nonprofit, and like most nonprofits, we were created to solve a problem. And so our founder, Christina Ingrid, it began when she was an executive director for a small nonprofit. And like a lot of EDs, especially for startup nonprofits, she held the responsibility of managing the books, doing bookkeeping, keeping track of the money flow. She was only working part-time, but she thought that she was doing a great job. And she was. But when an audit came in, it turns out that on the books, they had $10,000 more than what they actually had in the bank. And so this was a terrifying experience for her, obviously, because they had been planning to keep her on, give her like a full-time position, thinking they had the funds to do so. They were basing this, the amount that they thought they had on grants that they were going to apply to, and so on and so forth. But when it came down to it, they realized that even though she thought that the books were in order, in fact, they weren't, because she just hadn't had the knowledge or the experience to properly manage her books. And so based on this experience, she realized that she's not the only nonprofit dealing with this problem. She's not the only ED that struggles with finances or struggles with bookkeeping. In fact, there are a lot that experience the exact same thing. And so she wanted to help them. She wanted to create a program which they could go to for help. And so through Sustainable Eastern Ontario, she developed a pilot program for a capacity building bookkeeping social enterprise to offer to small environmental nonprofit organizations. Specifically, it started throughout the Ottawa area. And so when she first started this, there were 2 organizations that hired GreenBooks to help them with their bookkeeping services, just keeping track of money flows, looking at expenditures, profits, seeing if they had the proper funds to get someone on the books to pay a full-time employee. But quickly, the news spread of the program and how much it was helping these nonprofits kind of take the stress away from bookkeeping. And so in 2015, the program applied to the Ottawa Community Foundation for funding to expand the services and to expand the clients. And because they received the funding through 2016, 2017, we grew from 2 organizations to 7 to 10, 12, 17, so on and so forth throughout the years. During this time, we actually received another round of funding, which allowed us to expand our services, which led to more nonprofits wanting our help because the stress is just so overwhelming at times. And then in 2021 of this year, in April, GreenBooks had grown so much that we were able to incorporate independently from Sustainable Eastern Ontario. So we are now a federally incorporated nonprofit. And today we now have over 30 clients, 30 environmental nonprofits that we work with to help with their bookkeeping needs. This is a list of some of our clients and partners. Obviously, there are a few more. We have some larger clients that include the Canadian Environmental Network and the Nova Scotia Environmental Network, as well as the National Farmers Union of Ontario. So, it started off with this idea that other nonprofits need help with their bookkeeping, and it's grown into this amazing nonprofit on its own, and has been able to help so many organizations. And so we started with just Christina, but over the years we have now been able to hire Eric, who is here today, and he'll be answering the technical questions on bookkeeping. So if you have any, put them in the chat and we can address them afterwards. We also have Sarah Helcrow. She is our ENGO client specialist for mostly Ottawa, Eastern Ontario region. And then myself, I act as the main contact. I do onboarding and client outreach coordination. And then we have a full team of board of directors. There are 7 members. Yeah, it's been a great team. It's fabulous that we've been able to grow so much. And And then, yeah, so that's kind of our founding story of how we got going. But, you know, what's really powered us throughout the years is our passion, you know, why we care and why we want to do what we're doing. Because when you think of environmental nonprofits, you don't really think of bookkeeping as a key aspect of that. And so really we got started because, you know, everyone on our team has worked within the nonprofit sector. So we understand the struggles that environmental nonprofits go through, because we ourselves are a small shop environmental nonprofit. We've experienced the struggles of starting out, the struggles of thinking you're managing the books and inputting all the data that you need to, and you have kept all your receipts, but maybe you've lost a couple, you know, like we've been there. So we completely understand. And we don't want to have these nonprofits going through the same struggles and experiencing the same thing when we have the knowledge to help them. And so we do understand, like, when the books become a mess, it can be detrimental financially to nonprofits, but also, you know, on your reputation. If your books aren't accurate, if they're not organized, if they're not transparent, it can really be detrimental. It can make or break a nonprofit. And we don't want that to happen, because we are an environmental nonprofit and we want to make sure that you are successful in your mission. And also, finances are stressful. I don't know about you guys, but if I'm starting an environmental nonprofit, I'm not doing it because, oh, you know, I think figuring out how to do bookkeeping on the fly would just be so much fun. It'd just be fabulous idea to do. No, you start it so that you can address an environmental issue, whether that be climate change or plastic waste or habitat rehabilitation. That's why you start a nonprofit. You don't do it for the finances, and you shouldn't have to struggle with that. So we understand these issues and we want to help. And then, like I said before, we're in it for the same reasons you are. GreenBooks has the knowledge on bookkeeping, and we want to take the weight of that stress off your shoulders so that you don't have to focus on the finances. You can focus on the mission of your nonprofit. And so I just include a quote by our founder, where she stated, "I know firsthand how important it is for small environmental organizations to get their books in order," because she was there. Hopefully she was one of the few that experienced the worst case scenarios when starting a nonprofit. And so what we offer is basically how we can help environmental nonprofits. And so all of our services are based off of our experiences, whether it be our founder working in the environmental field or issues that other nonprofits have recognized when they're doing the bookkeeping, and we have created services to address those issues. And so the bookkeeping, really our services are to take the finances off your mind, so that you can focus on your mission. And that it's under this idea that as you grow, so will the books. So, you know, you may start off with an Excel spreadsheet, which is great because you want to keep track of everything. But as you're growing, you're going to need something more, you know, like as Christina had experienced, it's so easy to have documents or receipts or, you know, payroll get completely disorganized. And so it's always a great idea to have someone there to help you grow your books as your organization grows. And it's also based on this idea, bookkeepers for nonprofits. As Christina was growing the organization, everyone realizes at some point you need a bookkeeper. But with a bookkeeper, as you grow and your service the books grow, whether that be you start off with a volunteer-based staff, and then eventually you put someone on the books and you need to pay them, and then you need to do payroll. Every time you add a service, a bookkeeper is going to charge for it. Whereas we have a pretty unique price structure, but also bookkeepers, the average bookkeeper doesn't understand nonprofits in the sense that if you have to do charitable receipts, or when it comes to the end of the year and you need to file for taxes, it's a lot different for nonprofits than the average business. And a lot of bookkeepers don't know this. So when they are filing at the end of the year, it's really easy for things to get mistaken. And then next thing you know, you're being audited. So GreenBooks is really for nonprofits in the sense that we understand what you need to file for, what you need to be including. So yeah, our whole structure is based for nonprofits, specifically environmental nonprofits. And so we have split our services into two different types. So we have data entry, which is direct involvement. So that could be like bookkeeping, managing daily transactions, payroll, which is the management of payroll and MERCs, filing, WSIB, HST taxes, and creating tax receipts for charitable receipts for donors as well. And then there's a more indirect approach that we take, which is advisory bookkeeping. So this can include reporting. So helping directors make informed decisions. This may include, based on your money flow, based on what your income is or your revenue, are you able to hire a full-time staff member? Or would it be a better idea if you applied for 2 more grants based on the idea that you want a full-time staff member? So it's giving that kind of advice so that you can financially grow your nonprofit. It's also annual financial statements, whether that's us creating them or helping you connect, if your nonprofit's growing, then maybe we will connect you with one of our accountants that we work with. And then lastly, like risk management, kind of goes back to giving advice, whether you need to get insurance, you really shouldn't pay for something because, your income's not going to match it. So yeah, those are just the two types, indirect and more direct approach. And then that leads to, this is a complete list of all of our services. It's super overwhelming, a little scary as well, if you're just starting a nonprofit and you're like, oh gosh, I have to do all this stuff. No, these are all the services based on what we've identified nonprofits need, whether it's at the beginning stages or as you're growing. And the beauty is we completely cater our services to what your nonprofit needs at your current point of growth. So maybe you only need 2 or 3 of these, or maybe you need 5. The great thing with GreenBooks is that we will create a package that works with your organization to help you get where you want to grow. And then, like I said, we have an amazing pricing structure. We really are focused for environmental nonprofits. First and foremost, we want to help you succeed. And so it's totally based on your annual organization revenue. So like it says here, if it's $50,000 or less, your bookkeeping cost monthly is $100. And then as you grow, the price will grow because, we are here to help you and we are providing a service. So it's just an understanding that you would pay for the service, but our primary concern is that you are able to succeed. And then at the bottom, you can see we do offer pro bono services for organizations that are under an annual revenue of $10,000. Because when you are starting out, where's the revenue coming from? A lot of people pay out of pocket or they get a loan, and how are you going to be able to afford a bookkeeper on top of that? So we just create this, a contract of understanding that when you get there, you can pay us. And so we have done an amazing work. I am so grateful to be a part of this organization and to work with them. And so I want to include a testimonial from one of our clients because they hired us as they were struggling with their books. And so Hannah from Greening Sacred Spaces in Ottawa, she wrote to us, as a small shop nonprofit, we do not have the current capacity to properly handle our finances on our own. GreenBooks has been a great partner to work with to make sure all the necessary paperwork is in order and that everyone gets paid on time. This service gives us peace of mind that the job is done right the first time. So it just goes back to this idea that finances are so stressful. You don't enter a nonprofit to manage your books. And it can really go downhill when you start stressing about these things. So just when us coming in as a bookkeeper and taking that away, it's such a relief for these organizations. They're able to focus back on why they started their nonprofit. They're able to refocus on their projects, their programs, their outreach. It's just such an amazing, went back one. It's just such an amazing program. And so, yeah, thank you so much for having me and listening to me. This is just my contact information. You know, if any of this, if you are in the nonprofit field and any of what I said resonates with you, please reach out. My name again is Chantal. You can send me an email or visit our website. We actually have an option where you can book a consultation with me for 30 minutes just to discuss your nonprofit, what you're looking for, what you may need. And then I would like to encourage you all to like and follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And I will I'll stop sharing my screen here and I'll go to Eric. And Eric's just gonna chat briefly about his experience as a bookkeeper here with GreenBooks. Thank you.
Thanks, Chantel. So I don't have any slides. I really won't take up a lot of everyone's time. I just wanted to follow up on a couple of things that Chantel said and yeah, share a little bit about my journey. So I've been really impressed with GreenBooks. I've known about them for a number of years, and I've been working as an environmental advocate for my entire adult life, starting out with little projects and now growing to working with larger groups with increasingly complex needs. As we kind of mentioned earlier on, I'm the director of operations at Ecology Ottawa, so working a lot on the strategic direction of that organization and helping support the internal infrastructure, including the books for Ecology Ottawa. And I've seen a lot of the differences that it makes when groups have good books and not so good books. Like we've probably all been in different board meetings when people kind of know what's going on, and then when people are kind of like unsure about what's going on. And so it's really, really a kind of liberating experience to be able to have that kind of meaningful analysis, that meaningful discussion, to actually plan for the future, right? We often say, if you don't know what you have, you can't, make decisions of what to do next. So I was brought onto the GreenBooks team to help them grow nationally. So I'm really excited to be working with them. And I'm really proud of GreenBooks because I think the work they do is really, really important. It's been super rewarding to see groups go from, Excel spreadsheets to full-on accounting packages in a short time frame, and to see the kind of relief that they get from just having it be organized and handled. One of the things I really like about GreenBooks is it gives me the opportunity to help other organizations achieve their goals. So really simply put, our mission is to see your mission succeed. So it's one of those cool nonprofits where we call ourselves a social enterprise because we do fundamentally rely on a fee-for-service model, but it's totally scaled back, right? Just to cover the basic costs as we all in the nonprofit sector have different ways of fundraising, right? So what I really like is to see other nonprofits be able to thrive. And so one of my passions is capacity building broadly. I really like helping people and helping people make their dreams come true. And so I see GreenBooks as part of a suite of support services that really help lift up the movement, the environmental movement specifically, but other groups as well are welcome. We're not going to exclude other nonprofits, but as Chris, I believe, was asking, we do work with nonprofits exclusively at this time. So unfortunately, we're not working with for-profit groups, although we really appreciate all the amazing work that for-profit groups are doing to make the world a better place. That kind of like social enterprise is a bit of a gray area at the moment, but perhaps down the road we'll chat with our board and see where that goes. So I've really been enjoying helping GreenBooks sort of achieve new heights, and I'm really grateful to be a part of it. It's a fun organization, and I'm here and happy and would love to chat about any of the sort of technical sides. If you have any sort of really more the nitty-gritty questions about our services, or anything that you think like Chantel's well positioned to talk about all of the client and outreach side of things. I'm sort of in the back end a little more, but I'm here to help you and help you achieve your mission. So let us know if you have any questions. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much to Chantel and to Eric for a great presentation and to learn a little bit more about what you're up to there. It's a great mission, and you know, I know if you did branch into for-profit organizations, you'd probably have a lot of extra clients. But no, it's a great mission, and you know, I recognize quite a few of those logos when you sort of went through there. So you know, fabulous work, and hats off to you. And you know, when you're down in the trenches of a nonprofit, probably the last thing you're thinking about is the finances. So it's probably, you know, it's quite nice for folks to have that ability to sort of farm that out to you guys. And you know, well done on a great mission. So if folks want to direct chat you, that's probably a great way to ask some technical questions. And also you've got those appointments that they can set up as well. So invite folks to do that. And we've got that shared in chat, and we'll share it on the recording when we put it out as well on YouTube. So thanks to both of you for the amazing work that you're doing, and really appreciate you coming on and telling us a little bit more about it. So appreciate that. Okay, next up, we've got Martin from Cleantech Commons. And Martin Yule is a seasoned entrepreneur, business mentor, instructor, strategy advisor, and corporate executive with expertise launching new companies and divisions, building high-performance teams, driving organizational growth. He is best known across Canada for building innovation clusters, developing ecosystems, growing angel investment networks, animating startup communities, and helping technological companies start and grow. So Martin, where do you get all that time? I guess that'll be my first question. You know, how do you get any time to yourself with all that? No, great job. Martin serves as the executive director of Cleantech Commons. So he's going to tell us a little bit more about that. And he also holds an MBA degree from the University of South Africa. So welcome, Martin, to Green Drinks. Thanks so much for being here. And we're all excited to learn a little bit more about what Cleantech Commons is.
Well, thank you, Nick, and thanks for that. Now you know why I look so old and haggard, because you know, all of that stuff going on. It doesn't all go on at once. So thanks very much, Nick, and thanks for the invitation to be with you guys. While I sort of preamble, can I share my screen and just make sure that that comes up? Is it there?
Yep, that came up great. Thanks, Martin.
Okay, great. So yeah, as I say, thank you very much. And Chantel, thanks for sharing, I mean, that very inspiring story. It's great to hear the backstory, and it's great to hear the success that you've achieved. I wish so many of my startup clients achieved such success. Just a quick apology in advance. My neighbor has decided to do a romantic candlelight lawn mow tonight. And if you hear his lawnmower, I do apologize. It's either that or I got to shout out the window and tell him to shut up. So let me see if there we go. So I must say, I'm absolutely delighted to be with you all this evening, and to have the opportunity to really share some thoughts with you about a couple of things. About first of all, the immense opportunities that the clean technology sector presents, but also about some fairly daunting challenges that companies in the sector face. Also about the important role that startups and spin-ups have in driving disruptive technologies to really solve some of those most pressing energy, environment, and climate challenges that we all know about. And then finally, about how Cleantech Commons itself aims to become, as the theme today suggests, an organization that indeed has impact and helps achieve the balance between the priorities of people, planet, and profit. Now, as Nick indicated up front, Cleantech Commons at Trent University is a new 85-acre university-aligned, university-linked research park. We're located in Peterborough, Ontario, and our focus really is on becoming a hub that drives innovation and commercialization in green technologies. And doing that by bringing together industry with the academic, with the research, with the student communities. So become really a place of collaboration. Our vision, there it worked. Our vision is to create Canada's premier location for clean, green, sustainable, and and low and zero carbon technology research, innovation, commercialization, and entrepreneurship. But I will just say, right up front, Cleantech Commons Research Park is so much more than a place. It's so much more than a location. What we are creating is something much more ambitious than that. And that is really a supportive, engaged, and connected community where innovation is able to flourish, where enduring partnerships are able to be created, and where, as I said, creative industry, academic, and entrepreneurial collaborations will drive discovery and innovation for a greener future. So what exactly is propelling this audacious vision? Well, according to StatsCan, the GDP generated from the environmental and clean technology product sector grew at twice the pace of the total Canadian economy in 2019. And another key lagging indicator is global private investment, which has increased by more than 20% a year since 2015, and that is across all deep technology fields, reaching almost $18 billion in 2018. With, I'm happy to say, investments in climate technologies in particular having grown at almost 5 times the rate of the overall global venture capital market. In fact, PricewaterhouseCoopers data suggests that since 2013, funding for climate-related technologies has climbed by a whopping 4,000%. So I think it's clear to say that clean tech investing is no longer a niche activity. And I'd suggest that environmental, social, and governance goals are feeding into that macro trend even more. But this is also a sector in which it is tremendously difficult to launch and grow a company, to launch and grow a startup and a technology. And that really is what Cleantech Commons is all about. So let me say very clearly that I am one who absolutely subscribes to the view that Canada has what it takes to capture a very significant slice of the emerging global clean tech opportunity, which I think for the purpose of this meeting, let's define simply as finding ways to do things in a more sustainable way and using fewer resources. Canada is already punching well above its weight in the clean tech space with, well, I think it's this year down from 12 to 11 of the top 100 global clean tech firms being Canadian by origin, and that is second only to the US. So clearly Canada is emerging as a leader in the clean tech space. This is also a sector in which jobs on average pay 41% more than the economy overall. But, and there's always a but, according to our friends at Eco Canada, despite this, Canada lags in a global clean tech market share, contributing just 1.43% of global exports. And obviously, given the relatively small size of the Canadian domestic market, strong export growth is crucial to the growth of our sector overall. And the economic reality is that for the clean technology, environmental products and services sector to be in the top 5 exports within the next couple of years, Canadian exports in those sectors will have to grow by an average of 11.4% per year, which is a tremendous task. So I think simply stated, it's true to say that Canada will not find itself in a position to take advantage of the imminent global economic opportunity without continuous innovation in the clean technology sector. And this in turn will not happen without startups and without spin-outs from academic research finding ways to commercialize disruptive technologies that help us to economically solve some of the most pressing and complex challenges of our time. Green drinks, Nick. You know, I mean, technological advances have always, I guess, been key agents of change in how we live, how we work, how we interact, and how we play. And solving the challenges of greenhouse gas emission reductions and decarbonizing our society will be no different. But despite that, recent research out of the UK suggests that between now and 2030, and if and only if deployed at scale, established digital clean technologies between them could enable just 15% of the greenhouse gas emission reductions that are needed. while the International Energy Agency is forecasting that nearly 35% of emission reductions will come from technologies that are currently only in the prototype or early demonstration phase, and that a full 45% of reductions will come from technologies that have not yet been widely deployed. In other words, net zero goals are simply unachievable without significant technology breakthroughs and across multiple industries and platforms. And that is something that will only happen through innovation. And I think this is especially important because due to the build-up over time of excessive and long-lived carbon emissions, reducing greenhouse gas emissions alone will not be enough to keep global warming below the average of 2 degrees Celsius. So in other words, our focus should not just be on limiting new emissions, but on removing something like 100 gigatons of carbon in the form of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere by 2050. And again, this will be a function of innovation in the clean tech sector, and it's clearly fundamental to us meeting now our long-term climate targets. And I think it's true to say that these efforts will be particularly important in many of the hard to decarbonize industries, such as construction and agriculture, where technologies that capture and convert carbon dioxide into valuable end products or services is really a totally new frontier. So while these innovations, I think you'll all agree, clearly have the potential to address big societal and environmental challenges, and they're often quite radical in nature, either entirely creating new markets or disrupting existing ones, this is where things start to get really interesting, because the harsh reality, and this is what I was alluding to earlier, is that there are a number of limiting factors that work against the commercialization of new clean technologies, as those of you who are innovating in this space will know only too well. So first of all, clean tech requires very significant, consistent, and long-term investment in research and development, including in fundamental research at universities and research institutes. And clean technology solutions are usually the outcome of research and innovation in what is known as deep tech, which is itself based on the whole process of scientific discovery. And again, that is something that generally happens or usually happens or sometimes only happens in university labs. Now, deep tech companies tend to be characterized by certain features. For instance, they require lengthy research and development processes. They may take a long time to reach commercial application or market-ready maturity. They suffer a number of HR challenges, including shortages of skilled workers and qualified graduates, and they often require very significant capital investments up front to achieve commercial success. And unfortunately, they also suffer often from very slow regulatory approvals and political challenges and upheavals. So it's not all plain sailing. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, and I think another challenge is the whole process of commercialization from universities. Canada has a pretty poor track record in commercializing the outputs of its academic research. And in Canada, we also face many adoption challenges. This, I think, is a function of good, world-class legacy infrastructure in many respects, which mitigates against trying new technology, sometimes risky technology. It also, I think it's also a function of pressure from vested interests. There are also, in many cases, few incentives for existing businesses to collaborate, either when they are developing new technologies or if they're trying to be an early adopter. Scaling is a challenge in capital-intensive businesses, so is deployment and implementation, which often requires, as you'll appreciate, retooling of business processes, and sometimes there are few specialized resources for clean tech companies. So while I'm not suggesting that Cleantech Commons will have an impact on all of this, what we absolutely can do as an organization is support our exciting clean, green, and low-carbon innovators and entrepreneurs, the very folks who are creating new solutions and leveraging new deep technologies to profitably solve some of the world's most complex challenges. These really will be the innovations that will have both national and global impact by solving really hard technical problems to serious global challenges. And these will be the solutions that will address billion-dollar market opportunities and create tangible, investable technologies that will both help drive down the cost of existing solutions like solar and wind and help accelerate the development of the innovative new high-impact breakthrough technologies of the future. So at Cleantech Commons, our starting point is that innovation and entrepreneurship are intrinsically linked, and that clean technology entrepreneurship will make a real difference in solving some of the biggest issues that are affecting our world today. And that is why Cleantech Commons is currently being developed as Canada's only pure-play, clean technology-focused, university-linked research and innovation park. You can see I've said that sentence more than once before. So the slide here shows the location of the research park on the east bank of Trent University at the north end of the city of Peterborough. And this is where we are creating a place for early stage and growth companies looking for investment, for large enterprises and multinational corporations that are seeking to collaborate and engage with new ventures, with new technology and with new talent. And a place for startups and spin-outs from academic research that need mentorship to help find their own product market fit. I think it's a blend of these companies together with access to evaluating business support services that will really help to drive innovation in clean technologies and help to make Canada a leader in this space, mainly by taking research and turning it into licensed clean technologies and into commercialized green technologies for the global market. What we are also creating is a space that specializes in the incubation and the accelerating of these emerging technology companies. This is what we call the Trent Enterprise Center, which will provide access to things like shared laboratory space, to technology assessment, demonstration and piloting zones, to office and co-working spaces, and then to scale-up facilities, all with the aim of getting new technologies to market that much quicker. At Cleantech Commons, we really believe that we can use our collective skills, we can use our expertise, and we can use our world-class facilities to have an enormous economic and societal impact. This is where I think by creating this dynamic live, work, play, learn, research environment, we will attract highly skilled science-based and technology-savvy professionals and creatives who have a very deep commitment to changing the future. And remember those challenges we spoke about a bit earlier? Well, Cleantech Commons aims to have an outsized impact by being the place that provides many key innovation enablers to address these challenges, including, first of all, creating, as I said, a connected and engaged community of clean tech innovation by providing a place that boosts collaborative research between private industry and the academic community, by creating a beneficial cluster of innovative growth companies in the areas of clean, green, low carbon technology development, by supporting the commercialization of cutting edge new technologies. And we do that by offering appropriate facilities and appropriate value-adding incubation, acceleration, and venture support services. And finally, by attracting smart investment and skilled human capital. So I'd like to really thank Nick and the organizers for today's session, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. But I think in conclusion, it's probably fair to say that the global demand for clean technology and for clean innovation is growing. The imperative to address climate change is creating a lucrative market for low pollution innovation across almost every sector today. And accelerating the pace of clean innovation in Canada is therefore not only an important tool for meeting our own climate and environmental goals, but it also represents an important global economic opportunity. And as by now I'm sure you realize, I believe that this is an economic opportunity that Canada must embrace if we are going to successfully face down the tough economic and environmental challenges that we are currently confronting. And if we are to call the next generation of clean, green, low carbon technology innovators and entrepreneurs, the very folks, in other words, who are creating new solutions and who are leveraging new deep technologies and finding ways to profitably solve the world's energy, environment, and climate challenges, if we are to proudly call these folks our own. I think it is by I think it's by supporting the growth of these visionaries that Cleantech Commons aims to become an organization that indeed has impact, a deep, long-lasting and an enduring impact on making the world a greener place for future generations. And hopefully I look forward to welcoming many of the participants on this call today to our community in the future and helping you perhaps find your home at Cleantech Commons Research Park. Thanks, Nick. That's it. I'd be happy to.
Great. Oh, fabulous work there, Martin. It's exciting. I never thought I'd be so excited to go to Peterborough. I'd be very excited to come visit and check out what you're going on there. So, no, some great things. Invite folks to share any questions in chat that they may have. I've got a couple, but no, fabulous work that you're doing, and what an exciting space. So much space there, and nice to see some of those buildings coming up too. So you touched on it a little bit about Canada's export of clean tech. I mean, how do we increase that? I mean, so many of our members are working hard to try to get their product to market, but it seems tricky for them, right? Until they have sales, they can't get funding from places like EDC and things like that. So I guess it's a bit of a two-part question. How do we increase our exports? And then how do we help these small Canadian companies who may be in the ideation phase? How do we help them grow if they don't, because they're kind of caught in that chicken and the egg scenario?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think the short answer is, Nick, that it is an ecosystem-wide approach that's required. None of us by ourselves are going to fundamentally address all of those issues, but each of us in our own way. As Chantel showed, how she's helping not-for-profits be more successful. Certainly the infrastructure we're talking about is very much designed to help take companies from a lab environment through the ideation, through the early stages of commercialization, to help get them to market that much quicker. I mean, I think it's absolutely true that one of the challenges we face is a risk-averse approach in Canada to many new technology. And I hope I don't get shot across the screen by saying that it's absolutely true that I've sent a number of my clients to the US market, because that is where they find ready capital, risk capital, where they also find willing markets and early adopters who are prepared to take a chance. Part of the challenge in that is very much about the regulatory environment. A lot of, and as consumers, we're all delighted that Canada has such a strict regulatory environment for consumer products, whether it's Health Canada product oversight or whoever. But that can also be a challenge for earlier stage companies. I mean, again, I'm working with a company that has a world-beating product. They were pretty much forced to get FDA approval in the States to start to generate revenue, which they've now done, and they're generating revenue, but they're probably another 2 years away from getting that regulatory approval in Canada. So they're a Canadian company, but they have no revenue in their home market, for instance, right? All their revenue will be internationally generated. So I think there are a lot of issues we need to look at. And I think there are a number of folks in the ecosystem that are really well suited to help with specific issues. I'm certainly hoping that Cleantech Commons provides the impetus to bring a lot of these together. And as Chantel will tell you, there are lots of other good reasons to visit Peterborough, Nick.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A few of my friends who've gone to Trent will tell me as much, for sure. So I'm glad you touched on the certifications, because I know a lot of our members are struggling with that, right? Where they can go down to the States or go to China and get their certifications, but here there's so much red tape. If they have, one certifier doesn't tell them the same as the next. So what are some things that you're helping companies do around certifications? What are some tips and tricks that you're getting folks to look at? Is it, getting out of Canada first and kind of coming back? Or
so listen, I mean, sometimes that happens by necessity. But what we believe is that in any regulated market, whether we're talking life sciences or biosciences or pure clean tech or whatever the sector is that is regulated, a regulatory strategy needs to be part of a company's strategy from day one. In other words, don't go out and build the product and come to market and then say, what is the regulation in this particular market? And so it's not only that they need to understand their regulatory pathway to market from day one in their home market, but they also need to understand it in every foreign market that they plan to enter. And again, there's no point arriving at, at the Chinese border and saying, we're here to sell, and they look at you as though you're batty, because, there's a different regulatory environment. So I think it's really important to understand it from day one. And then once you understand what it is, to build a strategy around that. And that also means, by the way, working with professionals who can advise you about the best, most appropriate regulatory pathways to market and there are folks out there. They're the Lisas of the regulatory world. Not nearly as interesting as Lisa, of course, because regulation tends not to be that interesting, but it's very critical in regulated markets.
Essential for sure. Jay's wondering, are tours possible? Are you guys doing tours? I suppose they probably paused during COVID. Are you back doing tours?
Yeah, we're Jay. I tell you what, I will put my infos on the last slide. I will place that in the chat. If anybody's interested in chatting further, please don't hesitate to reach out. During the height of COVID, I was actually doing virtual tours with significant investment groups. Very significant investment groups. I'm holding a mobile device and a laptop and a Zoom link and walking around the site, showing them what it looked like. And believe it or not, it worked more successfully than you might think. So Jay, anything's possible, but nothing would be as delightful as actually doing a personal walking tour and stumbling across the white-tailed deer that amble across our path, or other wildlife along the way.
Well, there you go. Sounds like a personal tour. So that's fabulous. Thanks so much, Martin. My last question is, so let's say I'm an entrepreneur and I'm in my garage and I've invented what I think is the next best solar panel or heat pump or something that I'm very excited about, and I want to come to Cleantech Commons and be a part of what you're doing. What are the steps and processes? Is there an application form? Is there a fee that folks need to look at? Take us through a little bit of where folks need to kind of go through to get into your program.
Right. Well, so the easiest thing is just to head over to cleantechcommons.ca, fill in the sort of the very last page, which I guess is just sort of an expression of interest. Invariably, Nick, we do this one-on-one. We invariably then reach out and have a conversation, because truthfully, I'm not going to sell something that may not be in a company's best interest at a particular stage of its life cycle. Not every company, not every clean tech company do I think should move from wherever they are to Cleantech Commons. But I think what I like to do is I like to talk about our value proposition. I like to talk about access to world-class faculty, to the world-class research centers that are available to you as a Cleantech Commons tenant at Trent University, like the world-class water quality center, which has the largest collection of mass spectrometers under any one roof anywhere in Canada. And like, who knew, right? So many companies rely on that, on having access to that equipment. Also access to human capital. Trent graduates, I forget the exact number, but it's somewhere in the region of probably just shy of 300 environmental and life science student graduates a year. And truthfully, they are snapped up in the market. They're snapped up in the job market very, very quickly. And in actual fact, it's quite interesting that a number of companies that have expressed an interest in locating at the research park want to do that purely to build research relationships with the university, but also to get access to the skilled human capital coming out of the university, the talented youth and the skilled graduates who they would love to work with on an experiential learning basis while they're undergraduates, and then offer them a job the day they graduate. And for us, that's really important. For Trent, it's really important because it creates a pathway to keep Trent graduates in the Peterborough community, rather than them having to go to Ottawa, for instance, as delightful as Ottawa is.
Yeah, so, we'll get a bit of a rivalry going with our clean tech company. Hopefully.
Exactly. So no, listen, it's not as simple. There's no AI algorithm that accepts or rejects you. I think the easiest, the best thing is to reach out. We will touch base individually with each and every company that expresses an interest. In terms of programming, you know, we offer a lot of subsidized stuff through the Trent Enterprise Center. But for those who are looking for office space, we're in the process of building this absolutely incredible facility. It's going to be one of the greenest buildings in Canada. And there's an opportunity for small and medium-sized and growing companies to simply rent space in a multi-tenant building with access to shared facilities and resources and boardrooms and meeting rooms and the like. So it's an exciting.
It's fabulous. We'll definitely all have to get over to Peterborough to take a look at what you're doing,
we'll be delighted to host Green Drinks Peterborough one of these days.
There you go, and we'll get this out to our SmartNet Alliance members and all those working out in the community, and we'll get this up on YouTube. So hopefully this drives a few folks to your door as well. So thanks so much, Martin, for the passion and you know, everything you do. And yeah, a bit of a field trip, Jen. Agree for that comment into chat, and stick around. We'll maybe have a bit of time for some follow-up questions. But thanks so much for all the work you're doing, and very exciting stuff out of the Cleantech Commons. And you know, we hope that that's really able to help grow the Canadian cleantech industry in the years to come.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for your great words, and thanks to everyone for dialing in tonight and spending some time with us. I'll be on the chat. I'll share my details, and I can respond to any follow-ups there. So thanks, folks.
Cheers. Thanks so much again, Martin. Great. Well, our final presenter of the night, we've got Lisa Olkey, and she's an entrepreneur with a passion for the environment. Her concern for climate change attracted her to renewable energy, where she has spent the past 12 years focusing on utility scale and residential solar. In 2013, an increased awareness of access to energy was fueled during a visit to Tanzania. And from there, she collaborated with Majengo Canada, a not-for-profit, to bring off-grid solar and storage to a remote orphanage there and address energy poverty, leading fundraising and serving as a program manager to 2016. So amazing initiatives. And I'm told she's got a bit of an interactive piece to her presentation, so everybody stay aware and get ready to be a part of it. But let's bring in Lisa now to share her screen and tell us a little bit about the important work she's doing. Thanks for joining us, Lisa.
Thanks so much, Nick. Lovely introduction. Thank you to the team at SmartNet Alliance, and as well to the co-presenters here today, Chantel and Eric from GreenBooks Canada, as well as it's nice to be reacquainted with Martin Yule of Cleantech Commons, and to see the evolution and the passion for an innovative facility like this in the Peterborough area is so exciting. And it can't come fast enough. It really can't come fast enough. So really happy to share my screen here, and let me find my presentation. Here it is. I think I'm not on the right slide. So quickly get in there. There we go. So really exciting to be part of great company with organizations with impact. So I am the president of Lox Consulting, as mentioned, and a company that I launched in 2020. Very fortuitous at the time, and recognizing how much the clean tech space is growing, and folks working in the environment. I mean, just in the last, in 2020, there were 34,000 jobs created in Ontario, all for environmental employment, and another 11,000+ in Quebec. So it's happening, it's growing, and it's exciting to be part of that. So as I advance here, I am, again, I really appreciated the land acknowledgement from the Ottawa area, and I think it's important to also recognize different regions of our great country. So today we acknowledge the land we're hosting is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. So really great to be here, and definitely want to recognize the land that we all have called home for a while, and that needs more recognition to the First Peoples. So Lox Consulting, really, it's about a vision for a low carbon economy. And as we've talked about so much innovation that's happening in the space, I'm going to touch a little bit on some of the innovation that we see the consulting firm doing to bridge the gap between the technical and real world application. Throughout this presentation, I'll also talk about really, I think, our full human being self, our full who we present to the world, not only as a career hat that we wear, but what other hats do we wear and how do I identify and what is the impact that we have on the world at large, our digital presence and the persona that we create, as well as I'm going to touch on the pandemic because it's all real. We've all just emerged from that and we're still dealing with it, and some of the adverse effects and marginalized groups that have had more impact and been dealt a stronger blow by that. And some of the issues around mental health and collecting and collaborating and reaching out and knowing that the world is here to help and serve and support. So it should be fun. There's a little bit of interactive elements, and I'm looking forward to having some questions at the end. So without any further ado, I'll continue on to talk a little bit more about what we do. So we really are involved in driving sustainable growth. I'm in my 12th year working in the energy space, primarily in renewable energies, starting in 2009 with a stint in load forecasting with Hydro One. So really understanding more about supply, demand, transmission, distribution, as well as some of the programs that were happening at the time, like the Nipissing time of use program. So I have been directly involved and impacting over 180 megawatts of utility scale solar and residential. That's throughout North America. And as Nick touched on as well, a small, really passionate project that we did in Tanzania. So I love working within a technical environment. I integrate really well with engineering and that kind of technical team to lay it down in layman's terms and say, this is a great offering, there's a real gap. How do we actually get that to market? And those are really important elements for the technical people. So in my career, I've aligned with so many great engineers, and I'm the first one to saddle up to them at a networking event and say, okay, let's go tell everybody in the world how great you are in the services and what you're providing. So love to toot the horn of a lot of really smart people doing great things. I'm really strategic and project oriented. I really like to look at the big picture, and that's the kind of work that we'll be doing. And certainly advocating and mitigating energy poverty is huge. Not only the energy poverty we saw in Tanzania, but energy poverty in our own country. And a brief visit up to Iqaluit, where we thought, wouldn't it be cool to do solar in Iqaluit? That would be so exciting. Well, our visit soon enlightened us in terms of what the critical issues were, which is really housing security, food security, and a safe haven for people within very, very difficult situations. So understanding that our own country is fraught with challenges and energy poverty is not something that we are immune to as well. So establishing KPIs for success, again, if you can't measure it, you really don't see how you're tracking and how you're going to get there. So using those KPIs to align with innovative solutions is really exciting for me. And of course, everything that I choose to do at this point in my career, it has to be inclusive, it has to be collaborative, and we really have to touch on equitable employment, as well as working within a really diverse represented country that actually represents the people that call this home. So lots of times for questions at the end. So within the energy sector, I've deliberately aligned with organizations that matter, that are walking that path and doing really, really great work. And I think it's worth mentioning and giving a nod to the ones that I highlight here. The first is Women in Renewable Energy. So that group started, it was sort of in whispered conversations late in 2013, but in 2014, it really collectively gathered with an advisory board to really advance and educate and mentor women in the renewable energy space, a space that was primarily dominated by males, where there wasn't a really safe haven for asking questions, for getting to know the technology, for navigating through, and they continue to do amazing work. So I will have some credits at the end to let you know how to align with some of these organizations as well. So we've got Jen Aitchison with us here today. So Jen Aitchison is a Senior VP with Marsh, Her and I were both members of the advisory board, and this is us at one of our events. I believe this one was was a Canouia event in Montreal. But again, getting ourselves out there, being visible to the public, being accessible, being a resource is something that's so important for not only up and coming, but people that don't have the same level of extrovertedness, that are a little bit more shy and reserved, to bring them out and actually tag team them, partner them with others that can help elevate their careers and be lifelong partners and watch everybody's trajectory as they navigate through a really interesting career path. Step Up Energy Management. I joined the board of Step Up in 2020, and you'll see the vision here is really to achieve a breakthrough in Canadian energy management performance with gender equity at the heart of the transition to a low carbon economy. So not only is it advancing the role of women to C-suite, but also addressing all marginalized groups. So whether or not they be BIPOC, LGBTQ+, or others, to make sure that there is representation and that we can attract those people within the energy management space. Step Up as well is doing some really great work in the space when it comes to ED&I. And we are launching a Canada-wide global survey to understand and have a benchmark for how organizations are doing, to measure themselves, to track themselves, and to be able to move the dial and address where their shortcomings are and look to make improvements along the way. Some of the great work that Step Up does is not only a speaker series, the next one to be happening this fall, but we also open ourselves up to a monthly sort of one-on-one to chat with a couple of board members from within the Step Up organization, a really casual environment to field questions all around the energy management space. And it's been very, very successful. So again, when we're all looking for, going into the lunchroom and having casual chats or such, they don't seem to be as much of an opportunity for people. So just as they step outside of their Zoom calls, to maybe get on a really casual organization with people that generally like to connect and have a real nice approach to actually bringing people together, and whether or not it's parental leave surveys or understanding a little bit more around equitable workspaces, diversity and inclusion. There's much to be done in the energy management space, and lots of good work happening. So I touch on the EV society because if we're transitioning to a low carbon economy, we know electrification is a must. It's the first low hanging fruit. We know that it's proven that electric vehicles require 1/3 of the fossil fuels that ICE vehicles do. So when it comes to making immediate improvements to your greenhouse gas emissions, it's a great way to start. So the EV Society, I do contribute to the annual newsletter, as well as I'm part of the local Untitled Chapter and help them with some of their white papers that they write. But if anybody's interested in, maybe they have an EV themselves and they're looking for a community, it's a great space to actually be able to talk with folks that have the EVs, to learn about different models, to talk about anything that you might have when it comes to range anxiety or what's the charging network like, or just understand new pathways to global warming and reducing those. So a little nod out to the EV Society and some of the work that they're doing. And I know that they're mentioned on SmartNet Alliance as well. So I think this group is fairly familiar with them, but it was worth sort of highlighting again here. Giving back, I can't stress enough how important it is. I've had a fairly lengthy career. I'm really blessed to have some amazing experiences, but I must say some of my greatest life experiences have been through giving back and through volunteering. And as such, I really wanted to touch on some projects and initiatives that are really special and certainly noteworthy. And it was one of those opportunities where there were things I wanted to do in my career that I wasn't being given the opportunity. So what I learned through some of the volunteer work is I actually learned to be a project manager, and I had the ability to not only that, but I was involved with procurement. I was involved with an HR element, bringing a team together, a technical team. So not only attracting volunteers, but retaining them, and then engaging the stakeholders that were supporting projects. So that was really fun, and it allowed people within the energy management space to actually see me with a different light, which was incredibly fun and very rewarding. So a little bit around the Majengo Children's Home in Tanzania. So in 2013, I became acquainted with the co-founder of the orphanage, and I felt somewhat a level of shame with how little the AIDS pandemic had affected my day-to-day life, and recognizing that there were so many orphan children throughout Africa and the developing world, but primarily here's where we see children with no hope for future, that not only do they not have their parents, but they really don't have any living relatives around to help them. So the Majengo orphanage, it wasn't immune to corruption. As you see in 2009, these kids were left in poverty, even though there was money coming in. They were in a one-room facility with a dirt floor, because it seemed that somebody was actually benefiting from keeping them from advancing. So it was quite shameful. In 2013, a group of volunteers visited the Majengo new sites, the buildings that were constructed. There was a lot of excitement around them. And while we were there, I was approached by the co-founder to address a challenge they had with connection to the electrical grid. All the buildings were wired for electricity with absolutely nothing in the schedule to connect to the grid. And that could be years down the road. So I was asked whether or not there would be a suitable opportunity for a solar installation. And having seen a lot of solar throughout my time in East Africa, I said, absolutely there is, but it can't be the solar that I've seen here, which is usually neglected with a lot of batteries that ran dry. You know, these are all lead acid batteries with no clean water or distilled water to top them up, no maintenance plan, and a lot of neglect. So so if we were going to do it, we were going to do it right. So that really speaks to the energy poverty and the lack of electricity globally. So this is not new. And as you can see, some of these numbers are a little dated. I did take them from the Solar Majengo project, but it's fairly astounding that that there's still so many people that are in the dark when it comes to being able to advance and be tied into the technical world. So the Majengo Children's Home, the off-grid solar system, it sort of took light in 2016, and you can see the volunteer team that was brought in to not only cover the electrical wiring, the engineering side of it, as well as the marketing and the fundraising efforts. So the beauty of this site is we actually completed a supplier relationship with Schneider Electric East Africa out of Nairobi. So not only did we drive the local economy, we also used the vocational training school in Arusha, Tanzania, to actually do the solar installation, while the technical team was there to oversee and audit it, so that when we go back to our own countries and the safety of a first world comfort, we know that it's being taken care of, that things aren't going to be neglected. If a panel or something needs resetting, or for some reason the day and a half of autonomy isn't meeting the standards, there are technical folks locally who own the system in a way that they have a pride with it, and they make sure that there are improvements done, and there is maintenance that's ongoing, which is a huge part with any sort of giving environment. Understanding that the technical team and the receiving group is really equipped with the ability to not only own it but to maintain it is so important. So some other fundraising that I think is really important, a lot of it really is targeted towards children's charities. And, as we look at a career path, a career is one thing, and we have so many hats to wear, but there's so many great emotions, great experiences, great collaborations that come through fundraising and teamwork and sharing and some great causes in there. So I think as we're looking at times when we're a little more isolated, think about what you can do to potentially lend a hand within your own communities, and how good that can make you feel. So career pivots, I've had a few. I mean, I've started along one path. I studied phys ed at University of Western Ontario. I only taught phys ed for a short while in Jamaica, which was a lot of fun, but my career pivoted in a lot of places. And I think agility is so important, especially to Nick's point when we looked early in the presentation, as well as Martin built on this, is a lot of the technology that we're going to see to help with greenhouse gas emission reductions and helping to get us to our targets of no more below 2 degrees Celsius by 2050, and even getting homes ready, net zero ready by 2030. Agility is going to be important. So to be able to pivot and go along the way. So I had one such pivot myself in 2021, in the early part of the year. I partnered with a colleague from the solar world, and we both talked about a gap within the home energy space. So on a home energy management, there's a number of different tools available. However, a lot of them were really complicated. They were graphs. They didn't give real easy actions to make change in real time. So we actually developed some software that's still in the front end development, and we're working within the space of the Ryerson Clean Energy Zone to launch that and build more awareness around how we can help develop the back end to actually get the smart plug and smart device interaction done by understanding those signals and being able to manage them, the protocols that go with both of them. It's really important to build awareness around energy generation as well. I mean, I think most people in this audience are fairly aware of the retirement of coal in this province anyway. The ISO just recently notified that expanding and creating more natural gas plants is something that's not going to happen. So more creativity around the generation that we have, more renewable energy is certainly one path, but being sustainable and conservation is the first step to actually move forward. So that's just one sort of career pivot. And I think it's worthwhile mentioning that this is just one hat that I wear in terms of the consulting business, and something that really I'm very passionate around in terms of what we can all do as not only homeowners, but people that actually manage our own utilities and are concerned about our global footprint and our emissions. I do think, and maybe this actually speaks to a younger audience, but it could be the other end of the spectrum as well, more senior sort of career professionals that are just getting into the digital space a little bit more now, that don't really see how much is out there trolling and analyzing the information that's available about us, the personal information, characteristics about our behaviors, our interactions, our alliances to one political party versus the other. It's used all over the place. Human resources firms are using it, enterprise security professionals, criminal justice people, as well as hackers are all looking for a little way into getting to know a little bit more about us, finding vulnerable access or tunnels to our personal data. But also as we look at joining companies that we really are passionate around, they're going to be looking at who we really are, the whole person that's applying, not somebody who just has a CV, but who have they presented themselves to be? Are they authentic? What is their brand? And do they align with our culture of environmental, social governance, diversity, equity, and cultures of inclusion? So all are worth mentioning that for me, it's something that I think about quite often. My other half is a cybersecurity specialist. So it's something that comes up in this household quite often. And I think we actually speak with our younger nieces and nephews frequently around what they're posting and what they're sharing, just to think about it. Think about it the day that you're posting it, and what would that look like in 3 months, 3 years, or in 10 years when you have to live with that information. Looking to the future, or we're talking about the technologies that aren't there now. I mean, biogas, fantastic to think that it would certainly be another way to deal with some of the methane and nitrous oxide emissions, which are responsible for higher emissions and more impact than CO2. But what about the transportation associated with that? Until we can electrify all the fleets that would get all the manure and everything from the sites to the biodigesters and stuff, sometimes it can put more of a burden on the environment than the others. But I love to see the building of more wind, more solar, not only hydro that's here and at the source, but that we actually keep within Canada rather than sending that all to our neighbors to the south. Let's use it where we can and keep our own air qualities and our own revenue here locally, but also distributed generation, energy storage, and every home has potentially their own little microgrid down the road. We know about meat-based diets. We know plant-based diets are again, it's a softer approach to how we can reduce our impact on this planet that we have. We, the days of having cars in your driveway in a 2-car family, they're going to be by the wayside, hopefully sooner rather than later. And we'll see see ourselves open up to more autonomous vehicles and a sharing economy. But the path there, it's a long road in terms of how we're going to get there. And that's where the excitement lies with me is in the early stages of being involved with solar energy, there was new technology happening all the time. And we were keeping abreast of, okay, so how do we connect to this structure? And this was even before building integrated PV. So with excitement, I look towards the future and how to become more ingrained into some of those industries. So again, I did mention, we talk a little bit about the pandemic and how connecting is really so crucial to our mental wellness, and just make sure that that we not only pivot when necessary, when we're in an unhappy place, just like we see astronaut himself doing here, but also to go through and a small exercise where find your people, your pets, your passions. Maybe it's volunteer work, maybe it's sports, maybe it's building a community, maybe it's cards, maybe it's online gaming where you have some sort of a release or an outlet. But I think it's really a healthy thing to do, especially in a world where we're a little less connected than we used to be. And we want to keep that connection. As human beings, we really need it. So I thought it would be fun to go through a little exercise here so that we can kind of reflect and celebrate all the amazing roles that we fill as individuals. So I'm going to kind of ask everybody, if you're interested, grab a pen and paper or tap it into your phone, whatever, to start sort of filling out a list of all the hats that you fill and the hats that you wear as a person in your life, in your career, in your family, outside of your professional life, that can help you to really recognize how amazing and how wonderful the journey is and can be. So I did a little bit of the exercise myself here and kind of ran out of space, but life really is a canvas. There's so much we can do. There's so much reinvention. In 2020, I became an empty nester, but I replaced that by actually filling a roost and bringing chickens into our life. And you know, who knew that I'd be adding chicken farmer to my little canvas of the journey that I'm leading. But there are so many fantastic things. And I'd love to see the chat where people can actually jot these down as well, because there are times when I think the pandemic can make mental health and marginalized groups, as well as you know, people trying to find a career path that they're really passionate about and land their primo job and know that primo job, it might not last forever, but while they're in it, let's make it as wonderful as they can. But really looking forward to seeing some of the results in the chat in terms of what the canvases look like, and whether or not they kind of enjoy this fun little game that we thought would be interesting to share on the Green Drinks audience. And a little shout out to, I did get permission from University of Manitoba to use the logo here for more information, more about the Truth and Reconciliation, which is very important. And I really do implore everybody to do their own research and to build more awareness, as well as some, the CDC, the government, how right now is really around how to cope with mental health and to do a little check-in in terms of how we're all doing. We're heading into another winter, and in Canada, we know that can be longer days, and mental health sometimes is affected. As well, a link to Step Up Energy for those that are interested in knowing more about the organization. We are actually currently looking to add another board member to the Step Up board. So if you're interested, my contact information follows here, and please reach out to me, and also look to the website. Women in Renewable Energies as well, doing great work. So encourage you to reach out to WIRE if you haven't got on their newsletter. There's a lot of really great information, and they're doing work across Canada, and they've really got a global footprint these days. So really, really happy to be part of that initial group and see how far it's flourishing. And then a little website to the EV Society. So I didn't touch on this much, but for anybody who didn't see Saul Griffith's sort of Electrify America recently, and the Rewiring America org, a fantastic YouTube video there all about how we can get to net zero, and it starts with really electrifying everything. So as different appliances and cars retire, let's look at ways to bring in non-emitting alternatives for that. So thank you, everybody here. I'm so pleased, and I'd be happy to connect with you on any of the social media that I'm on here, whether it be Twitter, LinkedIn, or Instagram. And so pleased that Nick reached out to me to invite me, and I've certainly enjoyed the evening and hope that everybody has as well. So thanks so much, Nick.
Yeah, thanks so much, Lisa. Fabulous work that you're doing and have done. Amazing volunteer experiences, and really happy that you touched on some of those amazing organizations like Wire. Doing amazing things. Invite folks to share a little blurb about themselves. I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be in third person, so I kind of put mine in third person there. But invite folks to share that into chat if they're feeling comfortable. Amazing presentation. I did have a question from Edward, and maybe Martin wants to jump in on this too, so it can be a bit of a roundtable. Edward's wondering, why don't we manufacture renewable energy systems, storage batteries, etc. in Canada, since we have all the natural resources, minerals, oils, gas, etc. Are we incapable, lazy, or hobbled by crippled regulations? And why don't you take a crack at that, and maybe we'll go over to Martin for a thought on that.
It's absolutely a really good question. I did see some good news out of Quebec recently that they are going to be starting to develop more battery technologies as well. We know that they're doing a lot on the electric bus front. So whether or not they have fewer regulations than our own province, we do. We have lots of mining resources within Canada. We've got certainly, the resources are there. There's work to be done in terms of how we engage the communities, the Indigenous communities where a lot of that mining's done, and how we go about the right way to actually proceed in those kind of environments and engage in the early stages. So I know that conversations are going on. I know that mining electrification is also currently very, very top of mind for a lot of contracting firms and for firms that are actually bidding on work to be done in our province. So I think we'll get there. I really hope that we don't end up just sending a lot of the raw materials to the US, that they will lead the way. But I'll let sort of Martin add to my comments here to see if he can actually clarify a little bit in terms of what he might have further insight into.
So I see Jen mentioned in the chat that we don't have all the necessary resources, and that's a good comment, Jen, lithium, silica, etc. But here's the good news. I'm actually, and again, under the cone of silence that we're all under, except Nick's going to post this on YouTube, so I guess I better be cautious. I'm working with a Canadian company right now, which is developing a breakthrough new battery technology. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it'll be manufactured in Canada. I get that. But absolutely, the intellectual property to develop a fantastic new battery technology. And we were talking about, the rise in electric vehicles. Well, this will be exactly the type of solution, allow quicker charges, greater mileage, and all sorts of sexy things. So again, lots of development work happening here. I'm just not sure it'll be made in Canada necessarily.
Yeah, and invite Edward to check out our previous virtual green drinks from this past July. We did feature a few members who are working in the battery space, and they're Canadian companies. So they are out there, and they are innovating. Definitely the regulations are a little bit more, as you say, crippling, but those companies are out there, and I know Martin and Lisa and myself are trying to help promote what they're doing. So great question. And thanks so much. So we'll sort of go around for some final thoughts. I kind of wanted to know, and we can start with Chantel on this. What would you tell your younger self just starting out in the environmental field? Some tips and tricks maybe that you didn't, and some final thoughts as we kind of head around the panel here. Over to you, Chantel.
Yeah, I would definitely, I was told this repeatedly throughout my university career, even in high school, but I didn't listen, and I'm currently realizing how important I should have listened to that. But is to build your network, build your connections. You can put your noses in the books, get amazing grades, but unless you're, building your network, whether that is being a volunteer, as Lisa pointed out, or just kind of diversifying your connections, creating excellent mentorships, friendships, professional relationships. It's key. It's really key, especially in the environmental field, because we are so interconnected. We do want to see each other succeed. And until you really get your name out, you build those connections, it'll be really, it's difficult to enter the field, for sure.
Martin, some thoughts on what advice would you give a young Martin Yule just starting out?
Well, first of all, I'd never take my own advice, so that's not a good thing. And secondly, I don't remember what it was to be a young version of myself, Nick. It was so long ago. But to Chantel's point, though, a great comment about building networks, not just personally and professionally, Chantel, but it's because of it's where innovation comes from. It's through the serendipitous, meeting of minds, and that's, by the way, part of what the research park is all about. It creates a place for companies to live, companies in different areas with different areas of expertise, but who meet in common spaces. And so often, you're sitting in your office and you don't know that a floor down is somebody who's now got an idea that you could be working with them on, collaborating with them on. And that's what we're looking to change. So, Nick, I don't have great advice. My advice is, if I could do it again, I'd sleep less and try and do more. Oh.
I don't know, pretty hard with that resume there, Martin. I think you've done quite a bit.
And I wouldn't take my own advice.
There you go. No, thanks so much, Martin. I think you've done some great work there. Lisa, over to you. What would you advise your younger self? You've been able to volunteer and really connect through some of your volunteer work. So what would you advise your younger self just starting out?
Really, it's a great question. And to Chantel's point, I've always been a connector. I like to build networks and stuff. So that came easily. But probably taking myself too seriously is something that I should have maybe just lightened up a little bit and quiet that voice of doubt. We all have it. We all have that dialogue that says, oh, gosh, am I really, do I qualify to be at the table? Is my voice one that deserves to be heard? Will I be listened to? I think a lot of that, I always had a voice anyway. I just think the doubt and the, again, that internal dialogue that we all have to really not like Jen says, is ignore the imposter syndrome feeling. So I think it's very common. I think some people are better at ignoring it than others, and I'm still learning it.
Yeah, some great words of wisdom there for sure. Connecting with others and getting inspired and understanding that, hey, sometimes you can be inspired and sometimes you're the inspiration, right? So I want to thank everybody so much for a great session. Just a reminder, we're back in November. We've got a session on total home control with solar integration. So that should be a great session in November. Hopefully folks can join us. The registration link is up. We've got Phil McNee from Demand Renewables. We'll also have a couple other speakers to be announced soon on that one as well. So folks are invited to hit that link and sign up. I want to thank everybody so much. What a great session. Amazing to hear about everybody's work and the great things that are going on. Hopefully people are inspired to keep going. Did any of the panelists want to share a couple final words before we sign off?
For me, just a word of thanks, and thank you for sharing the stage, Lisa and Chantal. Great to get to know you both, and Lisa, good to see you again. And Nick, thanks for the invitation.
Likewise.
Yeah, thanks so much, Martin. I want to thank all our speakers. What a great session. Keep up the good work, and we'll hope to stay connected to you in our community in the weeks and months to come. And we hope that everybody joins us again for another Green Drinks. So thanks so much. It's Nick from SmartNet Alliance, and I'm wishing you all a great evening. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, everybody.
All the best. Cheers, everyone.
Good night.